Hello, good morning, crafty friends. Happy Saturday. Welcome to Stamp and Create with Beth. I'm Beth Roy, an Independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. Today is Saturday, October 11th, 2025, and I'm just going to pull up my video and give it a few seconds here to make sure everybody finds me. So if you pop in, say good morning. Let me know who's here with me. If you're new to hanging out with us, feel free to let us know where you're coming from. If you're watching the replay over on YouTube, feel free to say hi. I'd like to get to know you too. Good morning, Linda. So I feel like the angle's wrong on my camera, and I apologize for that. I moved my stand, and it feels a little off. So you're seeing, it's really wide view. You're seeing things you don't normally do, but that's okay. Hello, Vicki. Good morning. Hello, Maggie. Good morning. So today I want to do a fall card, and then I will probably get into mostly Christmas, winter things. I just tend to use those cards more. So this will probably be my last fall thing. I may share a few things here and there toward Thanksgiving that you can do, but I love this large stamp. It's called Peaceful View. I have used it before, but I just love it. I love the scene. So I want to share with you a technique. So you can see my fall here, my fall tree. I've tried it a couple different ways, so I'm going to show you another technique because the item I'm using is leaving. So I used Stampin' Write markers. These are retiring. You can use these to do techniques on red rubber stamps. And you may have seen, I have mentioned it, Stampin' Up! Is transitioning away from the red rubber due to supply issues. So our big background stamps will become photopolymer. So they're phasing out the markers as well, because mostly they're used for techniques on red rubber, and that technique does not work on photopolymer stamps, or at least with these markers. So I'm going to show you the technique. The other item I have is a Stampin' Up! Spritzer. It's just filled with water, and we're going to make a pool party background. So the greeting came from Beautiful Motifs. So you can substitute in any greeting that you have. I think lots of greetings work for this, like thinking of you, celebrate. I have a fall birthday, and so I love everything fall. So think about people who have fall birthdays who might like this kind of card for a birthday. Good morning, Christy. So we're going to use this. I do use a stamp positioner. So you'll need to have a MISTI, or I have the old discontinued Stampin' Up! Positioner still. So I'm going to use that. And we're just going to jump right in. Are you guys ready? I would love to hear about how your week has been going. What have you been up to? So I'm just going to position this in about the middle of my positioner. I'll pick that up. Now, so for this card, I used the technique of coloring directly onto my red rubber stamp. Now you can do this several ways. You can color one section and then stamp it. Or I colored all of it. I added all my color. Then I spritzed it, which gives it kind of a watercolor look. It makes all the inks kind of bleed together. And then I stamped it. So I'm going to show you that technique. The other thing you can do is you can take a water painter and you can use your ink pads and pick up ink. You don't have to have it real wet, but you can pick up ink and paint on this just like you would with a marker. And I did 2 of these. This one I spritzed just like I did the other one and then stamped, and you can see it's lighter. The coloring's a little bit different. This one I kept stamping. So I added my ink, and then I would stamp it and then open it. And so that's a little harder, but I will show you how I kept my paper down. So you can do that. It looks different. It's not as saturated as if you put the marker on. And then some of them I went in and you can just kind of color in directly on the image once it's on here. So, good morning, Dad. Good morning, Joan. So first we're going to create this background, and I have one created here, but I'm going to create one with you so you can see how I did it. So I'm going to take this out of the way. I am using a Cajun Craze base. It is the standard base for us. It is 5.5 by 8.5, and it's scored at 4 1/4. So first, I'm going to do our background, and hopefully you guys can see okay. I don't have a grid paper on my glass mat here. So I'm using Pool Party. I like that color. I feel like it represents that fall crisp air. You could also use Balmy Blue if you don't have Pool Party. So I'm just going to use my blending brush, and I'm going to pull some ink off my ink pad. And then I'm going to start off, and I'm going to come on to my paper. And I'm just making a background. And Pool Party is sometimes hard to see. It doesn't start out really dark. I'm not worried because I know I'm stamping over a lot of this, so I'm not too worried if it's perfect, because I feel like it's going to get covered up. And you will see parts of it, but I think it's okay if it isn't perfect. Now, if you're making a background where you need it really smooth, then you'll just want to take your time working that color on. Let's see, I got a few blotchy edges there, but we're just going to keep going. And you can make this as dark as you want. Okay, so you want it to come pretty far down because some of the sky is showing through the grass, and so you don't want to have just a white blob down here. So I try to fade it kind of and just lighter and lighter as I get closer to where the grass would be. Good morning, Deb. Thanks for joining us. So I just keep doing this until I build up the color how I want it. And you can get darker down here toward the bottom and leave it lighter in the middle. That's okay too. So basically you're creating a background so that we can stamp on it. And you could even, you could use other colors if you wanted it to be like the sky's changing. I did a video of that, but we used Secret Sea, like the tree was a silhouette. So this is just adding color to the tree. And I was kind of using circular motion. Sometimes I pull it. You just have to be careful about how much ink is on your brush. But usually if you do circles, it kind of smooths that out. And I'm not worried about the top. It's all going to get kind of mixed in. You are correct, Vicki. Nature is not perfect. So however you want to do it is fine. We're going to leave it like that. And it does have some light areas, and that's okay. Now, if you have a lot of excess ink on here, you can wipe it down. Now we're ready to ink our stamp. So this is the lengthy part of this technique, okay? And I started, let me tell you the colors I'm using. I use Darling Duckling and Crushed Curry. Make sure I got the right markers out. And Pumpkin Pie and Cajun Craze. That's the colors that I used on this upper part of my tree. Now for my tree trunk and the branches, I used Pecan Pie and Early Espresso. And then on this area down here where I could tell on the red rubber that was flowers, I tried to color those in. It didn't always work out. Some of mine turned out better, but I used on the grass area Mossy Meadow. And so my fence is just like my tree, and then I used Early Espresso on my bird. So are you guys ready? And it is a little time consuming. I'm not going to say this is a quick process because it isn't. Can everybody see okay? I might scoot this over like this. I put an ink pad under my door to keep it level. I'm going to use the brush tip of my marker, and I'm starting with Darling Duckling, and I'm literally just coloring on this. So we're going to layer lots of colors. I'm just coloring on that wherever I want. And some of these are branches. You're just kind of guessing, especially in areas like this. You can kind of tell the artwork when you're up close to the stamp. Now, it's going to dry on the stamp. That's why we spritz it. So don't worry about if it's staying wet. Then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to, just wherever I think, you can kind of tell where the, I don't know if it's a flower, if it's wheat, whatever it is. I'm just adding a little bit of that Darling Duckling in. Like I said, I'm not too concerned if it's really perfect. When it comes out, it's going to be kind of like a watercolor. So it'll be okay. Now I'm going to use the crushed curry. So I'm kind of going light to dark, and I'm just putting that around where I had that yellow, the other yellow, and maybe a few extra spots. I want those yellows to kind of mix. If you do more yellow than orange, it's going to look more, you know, have more yellow leaves than it does the orange. So it's really up to you. And they're going to come out different every single time. So you can take a lot of time, or you can just throw the color on. Now this is orange. Now I will say you want all the rubber covered. So if you can kind of see, I don't know if you can tell on camera, you can kind of see where you've already put ink. And so you just want to make sure that all of it's covered. And I'm going to go back and do the brown last. So I'm not worried on some parts if I'm accidentally getting orange on it or whatever, because I can cover it. So this tree is going to be, it's coming out mostly, I have mostly orange, and that's okay. You could substitute any colors in as well that you like for fall. So if you want more of a purpley red tree, you can use Blackberry Bliss and Cherry Cobbler and red, whatever you like. Now I'm going to come in with some Cherry Cobbler, and I'm just dabbing it. I'm not coloring. I'm just kind of like dabbing areas. I want it to just kind of be sparse, if that makes sense. So let me bring it up a little bit. You can kind of see where it's still wet. And some of the spots I put the Darling Duckling in are already dry. I can tell that I touched the stamp, but it's definitely dry. So yes, Joan, I am going to use the Stampin' Spritzer to ink the entire project when I'm done. So if you wanted to do this one color at a time, you could put a little yellow on, stamp it, put a little, you know, the other yellow on, stamp it. I am doing mine all at one time. So that's most of the leaves. And I'm doing this from far away, so I may miss some spots because I'm trying to keep it under the camera. So now I'm coming in and I'm just adding some brown to those limbs. And it might not be perfect, it's okay, but I'm gonna try to follow the stamp. So there might be some branches that show, like there's some right here. You're just filling it in. Don't overthink it too much. So if you like these markers and you want to get them before they're gone, they are in the last chance. And I do have I have almost all of them. I don't have one of the sets of in colors, but I do like them. So if it's something that you think you want in your stash, then you'll want to grab them before they're gone. Now you'll notice that's not perfect. So when I'm coloring this, you see the streaks. That's the nature of the marker. And it's okay. It's going to look fine after we spritz it. But I do color in the direction that I want it. So I know my tree goes this direction, and when I do my fence, I'm going to go this direction because it does make a difference. Sorry, I needed a coffee break. Excuse me. So you can kind of see those markers are slowly drying. And I do turn my stamp. And it may surprise you, but I do the grass last. I just kind of work my way down my stamp. Okay, so I've loaded up my tree and my fence with that pecan pie. Now I'm going to come in with early espresso. And I'm just kind of touching up some of these smaller branches. And I'm just making lines. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Excuse me, my throat's really dry this morning. So I'm not trying to go over everything with that early espresso. I'm just adding in some dark spots. And you might not do as much on your fence. It's just going to add some texture. And if you want to do your smaller branches. And then I did my little bird here. Okay. Oh, yeah, I will miss them too. I don't use them as much for coloring because we have the blends, but I did use them for techniques like this. And also to color in small things because they do work really well and they're the same formula as the ink pads. So they work really well. So I do encourage you to grab those if you want them because once they're gone, they won't make them anymore. So I'm adding the Mossy Meadow, and I like to start down here in the bottom because it's mostly just that green color. And I do kind of a swirl. Yeah, it looks messy. And it does kind of stamp that way even after you spritz it, but I figure it kind of looks like like the grass. So I just do a swirling technique down there. And then I carefully come in here and I'm just going between the browns. And like I said, I tried to color in some of those flowers. This is the point where, well, whoops, sometimes I cover them back up. It's okay. The main thing is I want to make sure I get all the spots that are kind of between here, so it looks full. And if you get right up on your stamp, I'm not right up on mine, you can see better kind of what you're coloring. And if you need help, excuse me, refer to this. So like when I look over here, I know that some of these are flowers and some are leaves. Guess what? When you color them and spritz them, you can't really tell the difference. So don't overthink it too much. Now, something I like to do, because most of this is dry, I like to come back in with my darling duckling and just kind of add it back in. You do need to be careful. It will pick up orange like I just did. With that piece. And see, I picked up a little bit of that orange, but I'm not too worried about it. I'm just going to come back in here. I'll wipe it off. But I do want to make sure I covered all of those areas. It will spread a little bit. And what I'm going to do down here is I'm going to come back in and add a little more ink to those flowers. Okay, there we go. And then see, I picked up some of that color. I just kind of color a little bit till I get it off the tip of my marker. Okay, are you guys ready? So we have this. Now I will tell you, this is my sheet, okay, that I used. And I actually tested and I stamped on my piece to make sure that I got it where I wanted it. But I'm just going to kind of put this in here. And what you want to do to kind of keep it in place, oops, I have a piece of tape rolled up. It's just a little piece of Scotch tape. And I am going to put this in here. But first, I'm kind of closing this. I don't want to touch it. And I'm just looking to see where my stamp lands. So I know that I want to be about right here is the end and about right here is the end. And this second line down, I know that the stamp is down here, so it's about halfway. So I'm just kind of eyeballing where it is because I want to make sure that I don't miss the top of the stamp. I'm going to pull that down a little bit. And I know that that is going to cover. And I'm going to press that down so that it's adhered. I'm not using any magnets. And now, here comes the magic. I'm going to take my spritzer. It's filled with just water. And this is kind of messy, so you want to be mindful of what's in your area if you don't want it to get wet. And you're just spritzing it. See how it activated all that ink? All that ink is now moving on your stamp. And now I'm just going to close it. And everybody hold your breath. We'll see how it turns out. It is kind of an experiment. It may not turn out perfect every time. That's okay. Somewhere I have a tool. Let me get my little rubbing tool here. And I just press. I want to give it time to soak in and transfer all of that ink that we put on. So if you did a bigger piece, maybe you just made the sky in the middle, you could have the magnets holding it, but you'll need to make your piece bigger. And I prefer just to make it the size I want. You guys ready for the reveal? Let's see how good we did. So I had more of that. Darling Duckling has a little bit of a green to it. So I noticed that this didn't cover very well. Guess what I'm going to do? Add a little more ink. And this needs to be a little darker. Now, I think I want, in this area, I want a little more orange. And you got to be careful. This is wet and it can smear a little bit. So I'm just going to, oops, spritzed it the wrong way. Do a little spritz. And you can wipe off the excess here because I have a little too much. So you can see I added a little more orange in there. And that's really how you do it. And this is why you want to be careful when you re-spritz it. It can make it a little more watercolored and blurry. But it's okay. So you can see when you put those lines in there, they don't have to be perfect, but they add a little texture to your piece. Now I'm just going to set this off to the side. And something else you can do, let me bring in my scrap paper here. So you can take this and kind of add a little color, okay, to fill in. So see, we filled in there. And you can take your green marker if you want, and you can kind of touch up your grassy areas. I really like it. I like the effect. And you can see where I did darker browns. So I love how it comes out, and it comes out different every time. So this one, I took a lot of time adding my color on before I spritzed it. And see, I didn't have as much color up here on my on my stamp, and there are spots. See, there's little openings that are going to show that pool party, but I didn't have as much ink, so it just allowed the pool party to kind of show through, and it can mix with it. So on this one, I applied my ink very, very, very heavy. This one I did it a little bit faster. So you can kind of see when you dab the ink on, it creates kind of that texture. So, and if you don't use as much espresso, then you're just going to have a lighter fence and a lighter tree trunk. So I really like that it kind of comes out different every time. And it's just fun. It has a fun effect. So this is, now I just used basic white. If you use watercolor paper, it's going to look a little bit different because that paper takes the water differently. So, and let me show you. I don't know if this one has any water in it. Okay, so I can use my water painter. See if I can get it going here. And I can come in and move this ink a little bit. It's not going to move a lot because it's not watercolor paper. So you want to be careful about how much water you're adding because it will cause it to separate. It will cause the paper to separate, the fibers. So you will need some strong adhesive to hold this down, and you want to make sure it dries. Now, I didn't put as much ink and water on this as I did the other one, so it's okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate those kind words. So now we're going to add a greeting, and I just did a simple greeting, and this little piece of paper is just one of my scraps. And then I used my pool party and I went over it because I didn't want this bright white greeting on my card. It just felt out of place. So I sponged over it. So I stamped in Cajun Craze and I sponged over it. You could use early espresso for your greeting or a green since you're down here toward the bottom. Whatever you like is fine as long as it shows up with the pool party. And so what greeting do we want to do? So I pulled out this greeting set, which my original greeting was just a note. So let's see, what kind of card would you like to make this one? Do you want it to say hello, thinking of you, celebrate? This could be a birthday card. What do you think? Let's get some chatter in the comments, and then we're going to decide which color we want to use for the greeting. And that way you guys can be a little bit in the decision making. I chose most of the colors. I may have to try a Blackberry Bliss and Cherry Cobbler tree. I love that deep red of fall. And I think some leaves have that purple look to it. Anyone want to pick our greeting? Are y'all on a coffee break too? Thinking of you. I really like, I think Thinking of You cards are great in the fall. We kind of go into, you know, several holidays, and if somebody doesn't have very many family members, this may be a hard time for them. So I'm just going to grab a block here. And our next choice is, do we want our greeting to be early espresso? It's going to match our bird. Or Cajun Craze, which matches our base. So it seems unanimous for the Thinking of You. So that's a great card. So let's put A, Cajun Craze, B, Early Espresso. And let's just go ahead and stamp those. And see which one we like. I have kind of a bend here. There we go. Okay, so we have A, Cajun Craze, and B, Early Espresso. Let's see. Ooh, it looks like A is winning. Cajun Craze, it is. But you can see, okay, I stamped them both. And I just, wait, sorry, sticky. Get my other scissors here. I just trimmed it at an angle, okay? Then I took my angle on the other side. And trim it again. Be careful not to get your fingers. So there's that. And you can also just do one side angled. So depending on what you like. Okay. And you don't have to line it up. But it's just something I prefer to help them look even. Okay, so Cajun Craze. So let's move this one out of the way. Here's our card. And I did this on dimensionals. Excuse me. And I put it down here so that I could kind of cover up that transition from the trunk to the grass, because I just felt like it was a messy spot. So there's the two. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our brush, and mine still has some ink loaded in it. I didn't clean it out. And I'm just toning down that white, that bright white. So if you want this to have a lot, you could re-ink your brush. But I just felt like it it toned down the white and it brought that sky color in. I'm going to wipe this down. I got ink everywhere. I took my towel upstairs. Well, that's all right. We'll let it dry really quick. Okay, so you can kind of see my paper is curling. If I lay it down, you can kind of see this coming up. So that's why you want to use strong adhesive. I use the liquid glue. You can use tear and tape or Seal Plus. That's what the 3 that I recommend for this. Oh, and I don't know if I told you the size of this. This is 5 1/4 by 4. So I made it so that it's not matted. It just shows the card base. And I did that mostly because I wanted, that is a large scene image. And so I wanted that to fill my card. That's what I'm trying to say. I wanted a lot of that scene to show. So you could do smaller sizes. Okay. Somewhere I had a block. Okay. Sorry, my stuff's on the other side. I use a clean block and I kind of hold that down. Sometimes I use two, so you can put your blocks on there. Make sure they're clean. You don't want to ruin your card. And then this is going to go on with dimensionals. And then the inside just has a plain white sheet. You could do you know, if you have another leaf set, you could do a patterned paper. I just like mine plain for my message. Yeah, I agree, Vicki. I was sitting on my porch today and it's nice and crisp. It's really cool outside, but no fall colors. So I have a few trees that have some red on them, but most of my trees are green or brown. So I'm really sad that I don't get my favorite colors this year. I absolutely love when the trees pop. So you can see I don't have any bubbling here because I used a strong adhesive. I made sure it was flat and then I put some blocks on it. And that's going to help that paper that was wet stick down. And then we'll put a plain white sheet on the inside. And I'm just using some dimensionals on this. And I'm going to place it right down here. Now you could have put a light green over top of this and then stamped a really dark color. It's up to you. I just didn't feel like the bright white did any justice to my card. And I want the main focus to be, you know, that piece that I've stamped. And when you spritz it, it looks like you watercolored it, right? Okay, this is just a 5" by 3 3/4 inch piece of paper, and just the basic white. And I'm just going to adhere that on the inside. Deb, you are lucky. I love seeing the trees in North Carolina in the fall. Pretty much anywhere you can go and there's a forest or, you know, mountains and they are covered in trees. I love that. Yeah, Joan, I bet it's beautiful out there. So yes, I am definitely longing for, oh, that's really, I was trying to tone down the glare there. Let's see if they're all the sides are used. We'll do that. So here's my original. And like I said, I really layered these colors on and took my time really coloring that. And you can see I didn't put as much brown on some of these as I did my original. So this is it can be time consuming, but the result is amazing. So if you want these, you can grab them in the last chance. I don't know which ones are still available. Let me check really quick. Thank you, Christy. Let's see if I can just look real quick. It looks like the sets are still there. So if you buy them in the families, because these markers only come in the families, they're discounted. So, you know, if you have a list of $125 in products that you want, you can get that right now for $35 plus tax. So if you want to collect these markers, you could put those in your cart. Now, the full collection is not discounted, but the individual sets are, or the individual families, I should say. You can't buy just one marker. So if those are on your list, that might be a great way to collect those. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Maggie. I have enjoyed sharing this technique with you today. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching the first video. If you want to watch the second part, we will begin now. So I already have a couple of my ink pads out, and I'm just going to make the layer. So I've already blended this one, and we're just going to basically paint our stamp and then stamp it. So I will not finish the card. I will just be painting this. And because I stamped on here, I kind of know where I want to place this now. Okay, I have a guide, and I do have some tape on there. So I'm just going to put that on there, and then we're going to get busy over here. So the ink pads I need: Darling Duckling, Crushed Curry, Pumpkin Pie, Cajun Craze, Pecan Pie, Early Espresso, and Mossy Meadow. I'm going to do them in the exact same order that I did before. So let me get these. I did Darling Duckling first. So let me just get situated here. I've got to clean this off, so I'm just going to use something to wipe it clean. You do want to clean your stamp in between each time so that you can add the colors, because once you spray it, they've moved around and they might be where you don't want them. Now this chamois is drier, so I'm just going to kind of wipe it off. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I just want to make sure I don't have green where I want yellow. Okay. So when I do this, I have these water painters, okay? And you want them just a little wet. Remember, I squeezed this earlier, but I don't want it soaking wet like I'm watercoloring. So I squeeze my ink pads. You do need to have strong hands for that. If you don't, you can take a block and pick up the ink and use it that way. So I'm just taking this ink, find a spot for it here. You guys still see? I'm using my brush and I'm picking it up, okay? And I'm applying it. And it's going to be a little wetter. You can come right off the ink pad as well. I'm going to try to make this one a little orange, more orange. We'll see if I succeed this time. Now, you can use just a regular paintbrush and pick up your ink however you want. Basically, we're just applying that color again. And I will do the flowers. I'm going to do those when I get to that section. So now I'm going to move to my crushed curry. And I love this yellow for fall. So I'm just squeezing that in there. You can use your re-inkers, but they are wetter, right? More liquid than if you try to use your ink pads. Now, when I go to clean from color to color, I'll squeeze this and make sure I don't have any of that other color in there. But right now, I'm not worried about it. These yellows won't hurt each other. And I'm putting quite a bit of ink on there. Okay. So I think you can see me on camera. I'm just squeezing that. And once the water runs through it, it kind of cleans out the ink. It doesn't kind of, it does clean out the ink. And then I wipe it off on my Stampin' Scrub. So now, okay. Well, thank you for hanging out, Christy. Good luck at bowling. Dad, I don't know if I'm like Bob Ross, but I hope this turns out to be a happy little tree. So now I have my pumpkin pie, and I'm just going around and I'm adding that in, and you can kind of see still if you've added the ink, right? And we are going to spritz it, so it'll be okay if it's not perfect, because when I spritz it, it will spread some of that ink. So if I miss a few spots, it'll be okay. I did find it easier when I used this brush to do the tree, the branches, those parts. So I'm just pulling the ink right off my pad and I'm adding it into here. And I'm just kind of pouncing, like if you want it to be, have a little texture to it, so when you spritz it, it looks like that true fall color that just kind of moves and you know, melds together. That's what I think I love about fall, is that it's just this beautiful canvas of colors, and there's not hard lines. It's not like one color just stops and the next one starts. They just kind of all blend. Okay. Again, I'm not too worried about cleaning all of that out of my brush because we're going to Cajun Craze. And I'm not watering it down. So I want it to be really saturated. And I may pick up some of that other color. Okay. Clean my brush again. May run out of water. And I'm going to do pecan pie. So I'm using the thinner water painter. We have 3 sizes, and I'm using the smallest one. Kind of helps me. And like I said, you can use a small paintbrush if you're doing this stamp and you want to really get all these little fine lines. And I'm still going the direction that I want it to go, because it does leave lines in it, and I feel like it'll add to the texture and it helps it kind of look like it would if you were coloring it, or even watercoloring. You would do it in the direction that your limbs go, and there's a few up here. So if you really want to add in that brown where it goes, I find it easier with the smaller brush. Okay. Now I'm going to do the fence the same way. Oh, nice, Joan. So your baseball team made it to the playoffs. That's awesome. And I do encourage chatter, so if you're watching the replay, I like to hear what's going on in everyone's life. So that is a thing. All right. I think I got them all. Okay, now we're going to move on to our early espresso. And I don't need as much of this. And it really kind of depends on how you want to do it, how much. I'm just doing some lines. They don't have to be super dark. Okay. Oops. That one kind of dark. That's okay. And I just make sure I have a lot on my bird here. Okay. Looks good. I'm going to clean my brush again. And now I'm doing the green. Now remember, I'm going to come back and do those flowers that I didn't do on the bottom. And this, I noticed, came out definitely lighter than when I used the marker. But I think it's my ink pad. So okay. And I'm doing this probably quicker than I would if I was really, you know, I would really take my time. So I'm just kind of hurrying since it's on the video. So it depends on how quick you do everything, and how, you know, how much you pay attention to those little details and how it comes out. Just trying to make sure I got all the little bits up here. And you don't have to do the flowers a different color. You could just make everything green. Now I do the same thing. I do kind of a swirling motion. I just want to make sure it's covered. If I don't have enough ink on there, when I spritz it, it will be really light. It'll move the ink away and leave a blank space. So dab it on. Now, I think I'm out of water. I am simply switching the tubes. So this one, oh, I guess it's not empty. It looked empty. We'll switch it anyway. So that's more water in it. Maybe not. Nope, it won't work. I thought I switched these before, maybe not. All right, we'll try again. We'll try again. There we go. I guess you can't switch the tubes. I could have swore that I switched them. Maybe it was the old ones that I used to do that. Oh well, okay. So I'm gonna go all the way back to my first color because I want those to have kind of a green, and Darling Duckling is a yellow green. And I'm gonna add some yellow onto those flowers that I can see. So I just want to make sure everything has ink. So you can see why this kind of card would kind of take you a long time if this is how you're choosing to ink it. But I do like the result. Okay. All right, so we'll clean that. Now we're ready to spritz it. Oh, lots to celebrate. Oh, I know. Me too. I have several friends that have birthdays. My birthday. And it's so fun. Okay, I'm going to stand up just so I can see. So you can see this looks like it has a lot more ink than the other one. And it is wet, okay? It stays wetter So I'm going to, I don't want this to get wet. And I'm kind of holding it high up and I'm just misting. So you don't want it to be right on top. I'm pretty far away. My hand's not even on it. So you can kind of see that ink moving. And now we're going to stamp it the exact same way. And it takes a minute for all of it to soak in and transfer. So take your time. And you can do this on a block. You just have to know it's a one and done. And a lot of times with the amount of water I'm using, I really feel like even this way is a one and done. But you want to allow it time to soak into that paper. Oh, Vicky. So this technique, at least our markers are water-based. They're a pigment, water-based. And I have not been successful doing this technique on the photopolymer. So most of the time, our background stamps like this are red rubber, but that is changing. So I don't know what it'll look like. I do feel like you could make ink spots, you know, like this, and ink little sections at a time. I do think that could be successful. But I really feel like for like tight spots, like if you're doing a tree, I feel like it needs to have like a brush. So that's why I wanted to test out doing it with water painters. Now, I don't know. I don't have any photopolymers like this yet to test out how we might be able to ink parts of it. We'll just have to see how it comes to be, what it means when the material of our stamps change. And so I'm kind of excited about that challenge. I'm sorry, I'm shaking my whole desk doing this, and so my camera is moving, so I do apologize for that. But you can see, I'm really serious when I say take your time with this part. Because number one, your inks are wet, so they smushed when they went onto your paper. And so you want to make sure it transfers fully, so you get that effect where all the colors kind of blended together. Okay, are you ready for the reveal? So you can see it's not as it's not as saturated, but I still like it. I like the texture of it. And so if you find you have a spot that really didn't transfer, maybe you didn't push hard enough on that area, you can close this back and do it again if you notice that there's ink on it. If there isn't ink on it, then you would have to apply more ink. So this area where I have my fence looks like it could use a little more ink, because when I look over here, there's no ink there. So you can come back in, and it's this side, and you can apply some more ink and close it. So you can add more. Maybe you want more here. And I'm not re-spritzing. Okay, this is already kind of wet, so I didn't re-spritz anything. I'm just adding more ink to my stamp and closing it. So like this needs a little more. But you still have that watercolored look. I love that it looks like the leaves are falling and the sky's just poking through. And I also like to add a little more on the bottom. So again, I'm just going to pick up some ink and swirl it around. And I do that motion because I feel like it's not a harsh line, so it blends in a little better. Isn't that awesome? I love it. So this stamp set, it is a red rubber, so it will be leaving whenever it runs out, or until probably about August, because this is in the annual catalog. But if our markers sell out, you can use this method to apply your ink. Isn't that fun? So you would have to have the ink pads that you want and a pack of the water painters, which just came back recently. I'm so happy about. I love these things. There we go. And again, if you want a large portion of ink pads, the best way to get that right now is to build your list of $125 in product and pay $35 to get the starter kit. That special is only until the end of October. You can opt to do, our original cost is $99, and you can pick that option and get $189 in product. So if one of those appeal to you because you do want a large amount of things, please message me for a chat and we'll see if it's right for you. Okay, so there we have it. Now my layer is ready. Isn't that fun? And this is ready to get cleaned. I just wipe it off with one of my chamois and it's all ready to go. And then we can add this to a card base. And I still have this Thinking of You, so I can use that. So here are these two cards that I used with that technique. I haven't put a greeting on them. They don't have to have a greeting on the front. If you don't want a greeting, leave it off. Okay. And you can see I felt like I had a little more control because I could keep re-inking my stamp and I wasn't spritzing. So the markers, I felt like I had to spritz to get that color to move. When I'm using the water painter, even if it's very dry, our inks are water based. So when you do that and you pick them up, they have a little bit of liquid in them. And so I just swirled it around and I was able to get the same effect. Oh, thank you, Joan. Well, thank you all for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed this technique. If you have, please give me some love. This video will be uploaded to YouTube, so you can watch the replay over there. Thank you all for joining me. Have a beautiful Saturday. If you'd like to shop these products, you can go to my online store at bethroy.stampinup.net. If you decide you want to take advantage of the join offer, the starter kit offer, you can also find the link for that at my website. Thank you all for the love. Everyone have a beautiful weekend, and I'll see you soon. Bye.